Welcome back to the Daily Academy. I'm your host, and you can think of me as your professor today at the Daily Academy, Josh Shepardson. You can follow me on Twitter at bchad50. And today's course is fairly self-explanatory. It's called Utilizing Vegas, and this is under the MLB section. To put it simply, Vegas meaning betting lines, so not necessarily Las Vegas, but you've also got online sports books such as Pinnacle Sports that offer betting lines, over/under totals, prop bets, and that's what we're looking at today. They are an integral part of MLB DFS research. As you'll often hear me say on podcasts during the year, write in articles during the year, Vegas is brilliant. I mean, they didn't build luxurious casinos and resorts by offering faulty, crappy lines that the public could just beat up on. They're sharp. They often get it right. When they have a sizable betting favorite, there's a pretty good chance that that club is going to win. When they have a high total, more often than not, you're going to see runs scored. When they have a low total, it's likely to be a pitcher's duel. That's why this is a great starting point for MLB DFS research, and it is my favorite starting point every day. I want to make sure that there's not an angle that I'm missing. This is a good way to catch yourself from making a mistake, from missing the obvious. Maybe you see a total is 10.5 at Wrigley Field and say to yourself, oh, what the heck, there's two really good pitchers on the hill. Well, check the weather. Most likely the wind is blowing out at Wrigley, and that's not the type of thing you want to miss. You certainly don't want to trot out a pitcher if the weather conditions aren't favorable. But speaking more specifically to a certain part of the odds makers or Vegas line is the money line. The money line is very important in baseball because unlike football and other sports, there are so few runs scored. You don't see a total like -4.5 where you would in the NFL or college football. You don't see a total like a -9.5 like you might in an NBA game. There's just not enough runs scored. So in order to compensate for that, the money line is basically, to sum it up, it represents what you would have to wager to win $100. So if a team is a -275 betting favorite, you would have to win. You'd have to wager $275 to get your $275 wager back plus $100 won. The bigger the minus total, the bigger the favorite. Conversely, if you are getting money, say a plus 125 line, you want to bet an underdog. That means for every $100 wagered, you're going to get your 100 back plus the $125 on top of that. So that's how you're supposed to read a money line if you're not a sports bettor. It's probably a little bit overwhelming and foreign to you to look at those, but that's how you read it. So your minuses are your favorites. Typically, you're looking at -125 for a normal favorite, -150 if Vegas likes them a little bit, and then you start to get around -200 if you're a big favorite. And every now and again, a matchup is just perfect. A really bad offense against an elite pitcher, you might see a line approach something like -300. That's the biggest line that I've seen in the first roughly quarter of the Major League Baseball season this year, with Clayton Kershaw towing the rubber against a Rockies team without Troy Tulowitzki. So that's what you're looking at for big favorites. The best thing you can do is keep an eye on money lines closest to first pitch. Maybe there's some late action that can shift that. Maybe it means a change in the lineup. You're going to want to double check things, but that is the best starting point. It gives you a nice basis for determining which games you're targeting for hitters, which games you're targeting for pitchers. You're also going to want to look at the over/under total or under/over total if you prefer. I've heard it said both ways. Basically, this is what Vegas or odds makers for the online sports books expect the run total to be. So you may see a total of 6.5. That means that you can expect a pitcher's duel in that contest. You also may see them as high as 10.5 at hitters venues such as Coors Field, Minute Maid Park in Houston, and other hitter-friendly venues, especially if there are bad pitchers on the hill. And again, I'll get back to Wrigley Field. Keep an eye on the lines there because where the wind is blowing, whether it's blowing in or out, can really wreak havoc on the over-under total. And higher the total, the more likely you're going to want to target hitters from that contest. The lower the total, more likely the pitchers are in the mix. And every now and again, when you're checking these lines on a daily basis, you might see one that just doesn't seem like it adds up. Two mediocre pitchers on the hill with a low betting total could represent a good area for picking some bargain options. And conversely, you might see two decent pitchers on the hill and see a sizable over-under total that you weren't expecting to see. And when you see these things, it warrants digging a little deeper, trying to figure out what Vegas is seeing that maybe you're not seeing, and picking some players from that. The higher the over-under total, the higher you can raise your floor by grabbing hitters from that contest. And conversely, the lower the over-under total, the less likely you are to see a real clunker from the starting pitcher that you grab from that. The final thing I want to touch on from the utilizing Vegas section of the Daily Academy here in the MLB section is props. And prop bets are simply bets on player performance. Typically, you might see some for pitcher strikeouts. You'll see some for hitters in relation to hits and RBI, home runs. Your biggest betting favorites, or the guys that you will win the least money wagering on to hit homers, say a Giancarlo Stanton, could check in as a plus 350 to hit a home run. The lower the total there, the more likely Vegas believes they are to hit a home run. It's a nice tool to scan and try and figure out, who does Vegas think is going to hit a home run? Because that can be invaluable in grabbing the right power hitters, the right guys that reach the seats, especially in GPPs where you're looking to shoot the moon. Strikeout totals can be very useful in breaking ties between pitchers. Maybe you like a couple pitchers and Vegas throws a 5.5 strikeout total on one pitcher and only has it at 4 for another. That extra strikeout and a half projected by Vegas can mean all the difference in the world, especially if you're at a site like DraftKings that rewards strikeouts fairly heavily. So props are often an underutilized aspect of Vegas research. Pretty much every savvy daily gamer is already aware of the importance of checking money lines and over-under totals. So use props as a nice wrinkle to mix in there that is underutilized, and use this information to beat up on your daily fantasy competition in MLB DFS and win a little extra money. And on that note, good luck to you daily gamers. Win some big cash this year in daily fantasy, and keep tuning in to dailyfantasycafe.com for some awesome podcasts and great content, giving you the winning information you need to roll in the dough. Get this Scrooge McDuck going for you. So keep checking back at dailyfantasycafe.com for all your daily fantasy needs. Until later, until next time, I'll see you later.